0517 local time, North Atlantic. A subsurface contact appears on bearing 087, moving at 5 knots, depth 180 feet. The report comes in calm and precise. No panic, no emotion, just data. Inside the Combat Information Center of the USS George H.W. Bush, dim red light washes over the displays. Flight operations have just paused between recovery cycles. Up on deck, yellow shirts freeze for half a second as the message moves through internal comms. Contact. No one asked where it came from, not yet. That detail can wait. 5 knots is not random movement. It is slow, deliberate, and controlled. Classify. Across the carrier group, the escorting destroyer USS Gravely adjusts course 2 degrees to starboard. There is no announcement to the flight deck, no dramatic shift in the carrier's heading. The formation simply tightens, almost too subtly to notice. 0518, contact increasing speed, now 7 knots, course steady, closing. The sonar waterfall sharpens. Ordinary ocean noise begins to separate from a mechanical rhythm. Propeller blade count becomes clearer. The cavitation pattern does not match commercial shipping. A pause. Possible kilo-class derivative. Russian origin. No one uses dramatic language. They do not need to. Condition 3 shifts to Condition 2 across the group. Quietly, methodically. Response crews move, hatches are secured. The air wing holds position overhead, 0519. The contact accelerates again, 12 knots. That is not transit speed, that is maneuvering speed. A projected closest point of approach appears on the tactical display, 3.8 nautical miles. Time to CPA, 14 minutes. The carrier does not change course. Recommend active confirmation, Gravely's sonar supervisor advises. Approved. A single active ping rolls into the Atlantic. The return is immediate, solid, metallic, unmistakable. The submarine does not change heading, 0520. Contact now 15 knots, faster. On the Bush's bridge, the captain studies the repeater screen. He does not raise his voice. He does not lean forward. He simply says, maintain posture, log everything. The carrier group tightens by another half-mile. Subtle geometry. Destroyers adjust their bearings, shielding the carrier's flanks without broadcasting intent. 0521, depth change, contact climbing, 150 feet, periscope depth is approaching. A kilo-class submarine is built for silence. Running shallow while increasing speed is not silence. It is visibility. It is a message. 0522. Speed now 18 knots. That crosses into flank speed territory for a sustained underwater approach. Projected CPA drops to 2.9 nautical miles. Time to CPA, 10 minutes. Gravely spins up her MH-60R Seahawk. Rotor blades bite into the cold Atlantic air. Sonobuoys are prepared, but not yet released. This is presence, not pursuit. 0523, the submarine climbs again, 110 feet. At that depth, targeting geometry improves. If an underwater launch were initiated from this range, the timeline would be measured in minutes. The carrier still does not turn. 0524. CPA now 2.2 nautical miles. Active sonar continues. Ping, return, ping, return. The submarine does not break away. 0525. Contact at 22 knots. The acoustic signature grows louder through the water column. Inside the submarine, machinery is being pushed hard. Noise patterns spike. In the Bush's CIC, calculations update in real time. Defensive systems come online quietly. No alarms, no shouting. Only procedure. 0526. Depth, 95 feet. Periscope depth confirmed. Optical sensors aboard the Seahawk sweep the surface. No visible mast yet. But at this depth, the submarine commander can see the carrier. And the carrier knows it. 0527. CPA, 1.4 nautical miles. Time to CPA, 6 minutes. The geometry no longer looks like a parallel track. It looks like an intercept. Recommend evasive course for carrier, a tactical officer states. The answer comes immediately. Negative. Maintain course. A U.S. carrier does not give up centerline without cause. 0528. Contact at 25 knots. Flank confirmed. This is the closest point to decision. If a launch sequence were coming, this would be the moment. Gravely increases active ping frequency. The Atlantic answers with sharp metallic clarity. We see you. 0529. Silence. No launch transient, no bay noise, no sudden cavitation burst that would suggest tube flooding. Instead, the contact begins reducing speed. Now 21 knots, a subtle shift. 0530, heading change detected. 4 degrees starboard. CPA begins to widen. 1.3, 1.5. The submarine slides away from the direct intercept line. No launch signature, no flare, no radio call. Just a curved track moving across a glowing digital display. By 0531, the projected CPA stretches beyond 2 nautical miles. Speed drops to 18 knots. Depth increases gradually past 120 feet. The Seahawk holds position overhead, recording everything. On the Bush's bridge, no one celebrates, no one relaxes. The contact is still there, but the line has been tested, and the line has held. 0532 local time. Subsurface contact steady, bearing 091, range 6.8 nautical miles. The Russian submarine has widened slightly off the carrier's bow, but it has not left. It is pacing the formation now. Parallel, close enough to matter. Speed, 18 knots. Depth, 120 feet. Not hidden, not retreating. A calculated presence. Inside the Combat Information Center of the USS Gravely, acoustic analysts isolate the blade rate again. 6-blade screw, narrow harmonic band. Consistent with an improved kilo variant, diesel-electric, the data is logged, time-stamped, and archived. 0533, contact increasing speed, 21 knots. The submarine angles inward again, only 3 degrees, but enough to reshape the geometry. CPA tightens back under 2 nautical miles. That is not accidental drift. That is course correction with intent. On the bridge of the USS George H.W. Bush, the captain gives no visible reaction. The carrier continues on base course and speed. Flight operations remain paused. No alarm sound. 0534. Gravely deploys sonobuoy pattern Alpha. The MH-60R Seahawk banks low and releases the first buoy. It strikes the Atlantic surface and begins transmitting immediately. A second follows, then a third. A triangular grid forms across the submarine's projected track, triangulation improving, confidence high. The acoustic picture sharpens. Every ripple, every shaft rotation, every change in rhythm. 0535. Contact now, 24 knots. Flank speed sustained. A diesel-electric boat moving that fast underwater burns stored energy quickly. Batteries do not last forever at that rate, which means this maneuver has a clock. 0536. Depth shift, contact climbing, 80 feet. That depth gives a cleaner sensor return. It also makes the hull easier to detect from the Seahawk overhead. The submarine commander knows this and continues anyway. 0537. Projected CPA, 1.1 nautical miles. Time to CPA, 4 minutes. Inside CIC, defensive systems shift from standby to ready. Acoustic decoys are prepared. Soft response options are calculated. No one says what they are preparing for. They prepare for it anyway. 0538. Active sonar increases in tempo. Ping, return. Ping, return. The Atlantic becomes a conversation. Contact holding intercept geometry. The submarine's track aligns almost perfectly across the carrier's bow. If this were a naval pressure drill, this would be the textbook engagement window. 0539. The carrier finally moves. 2 degrees port. Not a dramatic turn, not an escape maneuver, just enough to force the submarine to adjust its solution if it intends to continue. A message without words. 0540. Contact speed decreasing, 20 knots. A flicker on the display. Depth, 70 feet. The submarine is shallow now, very shallow. Periscope depth is within reach. Above, the Seahawk drops to 200 feet and activates forward-looking infrared. No mast is visible yet, but a faint thermal distortion flickers across the waterline. 0541. CPA now 0.9 nautical miles, under 1 mile. At sea, that distance is close enough to understand scale with your own eyes if both vessels were surfaced. Underwater, it is even closer. Inside Gravely's CIC, a systems officer speaks quietly. If a launch signature is detected, recommend immediate defensive response. The captain nods once. 0542. The moment. Acoustic operators listen for the unmistakable shift. A rush of water, a pressure change, a sudden impulse. Nothing. Instead, contact turning starboard, 12 degrees. The line bends on the display. Speed drops to 18 knots, then 16. CPA begins to widen, 1.2, 1.5. The intercept geometry dissolves. 0543. Depth increasing, 110 feet. The submarine slides beneath the thermocline layer. Acoustic return weakens slightly as it descends into colder water. The Seahawk circles once, maintaining track and logging everything. No launch, no emergency maneuver, no escalation. Only distance opening across a dark Atlantic. 0544. The Russian boat steadies on a parallel course again, now offset safely beyond 2 nautical miles. Speed, 15 knots. No further attempt to close. Inside CIC, posture remains rigid. No one relaxes yet. The strike group holds formation. 0545. Contact descending, 150 feet. The submarine is moving away, but not in panic. Controlled depth, controlled speed. A final active ping from Gravely rolls through the water. The return is faint but clear. We still see you. 0546. Range 3 nautical miles, increasing. The Seahawk climbs to 500 feet and begins a slow orbit back toward the destroyer. On the Bush's bridge, flight operations resume. Yellow shirts move again. Catapults hiss as systems cycle back to readiness. Routine returns. But no one mistakes what just happened. A Russian submarine worth tens of millions of dollars had accelerated at flank speed directly toward a U.S. aircraft carrier, entered a high-risk envelope, and then, at less than 1 nautical mile, turned away. No exchange, no underwater release, no open escalation. But the line was tested, and the line held. 0547 local time. Subsurface contact steady. Bearing 095. Range 2.6 nautical miles. Depth 150 feet. The Russian submarine has not disappeared. It has repositioned. Parallel track, same general vector as the strike group. Close enough to remain relevant. Far enough to deny immediate engagement geometry. Inside the Combat Information Center of the USS Grey, acoustic operators maintain passive contact. Active pings stop. The Atlantic quiets. Now it becomes a listening contest. 0548. Contact speed, 14 knots. Reduced from flank, battery conservation. A diesel-electric boat cannot sprint forever. After a high-speed run, silence becomes survival. The Seahawk overhead narrows its orbit. Dipping sonar lowers briefly into the water column. A controlled splash. Data flows instantly to Gravely's consoles. Contact confirmed. No additional contacts in the vicinity. That matters. 1 submarine is pressure. 2 would mean something far more serious. 0549. The submarine shifts depth again. 120 feet, climbing slightly, adjusting to remain inside a favorable acoustic layer. The strike group tightens formation by less than half a mile. Not visible to civilian traffic, not obvious on open-source trackers, but deliberate. On the bridge of the USS George H.W. Bush, the captain watches the tactical display without comment. No course correction now, no signal flags, no radio transmission. At sea, silence can carry more weight than words. 0550. Contact altering heading, 3 degrees port, a subtle inward lean. Tactical closest point of approach recalculates, 2.1 nautical miles. The submarine is testing again, not for an immediate position. For reaction, Gravely does not react. No new ping, no maneuver. Passive tracking continues. 0551. Periscope breach detected. The Seahawk's electro-optical feed captures a thin metallic mast slicing briefly above the surface. Less than 2 seconds. Then it disappears again. Time-stamped, geo-referenced, stored. The Russian commander wanted visual confirmation. He got it. 0552. 2 F/A-18 Super Hornets launched from the bush, not configured for subsurface tracking. Standard air-to-air loadout only. They climb into a combat air patrol orbit 5,000 feet above the formation. The move is visible. Not necessary for the contact below, but unmistakable. 0553. Contact speed steady. 13 knots. The submarine holds depth, holds track. This is no longer an intercept. It is shadowing. 0554. Distance widens slightly. 2.5 nautical miles. Gravely shifts 1 degree starboard, minimal enough to widen the buffer without signaling retreat. The Seahawk performs 1 low pass offset from the submarine's last known position. Rotor wash disturbs the Atlantic surface in a deliberate arc. A reminder, 0555. Contact descending, 180 feet. The submarine begins slipping back below the thermocline layer again. Acoustic returns soften as it moves into colder, denser water. Passive sensors strain to keep the picture clear. 0556. Range, 3 nautical miles. Speed, 12 knots. No further heading changes. The Russian boat is easing away, not rushing, not disappearing, withdrawing under control. 0557. Active sonar remains silent. There is no need to push the moment any further. The strike group has maintained composure, maintained formation, maintained control. That is the message. 0558. Contact depth, 220 feet. The signature grows faint, still trackable, but no longer immediate. Flight operations aboard the Bush return to rhythm, arresting gear cycles. Deck crews move with rehearsed precision. The Atlantic wind resumes its normal sound against steel. 0559. Range, 4 nautical miles, increasing. The submarine's acoustic footprint gradually blends into the background noise of the ocean. A final blade rate confirmation appears on Gravely's screen before the trace weakens beyond high-confidence classification. 0600. Contact now 5 nautical miles. Depth, 300 feet, fading. The Seahawk climbs to transit altitude and returns toward Gravely's deck. Dipping sonar retracts. Buoy transmissions logged their final signals before deactivation. No underwater release occurred, no direct course was completed, no emergency maneuver was needed. But for 13 minutes, a Russian submarine moved directly toward a United States aircraft carrier at flank speed, entered a high-risk envelope, and then chose not to cross the line. 0602. Contact lost. Bearing 098. Last known depth, 320 feet. The display clears. Only blue water remains. Inside CIC, there is no applause, no visible release of tension, just data transfer. Acoustic files are copied, signature patterns archived, flank speed cavitation profiles isolated for future recognition. Because the next time that blade rate appears on a sonar waterfall, there will be no guesswork. On the bridge of the bush, the captain looks once more at the cleared tactical screen. Resume normal operations. The strike group holds course. The Atlantic looks calm. But every sailor on board understands exactly how close the moment came. 0605 local time. Subsurface contact reacquired. Bearing 102. Range 6.3 nautical miles. Depth 350 feet. The Russian submarine did not vanish. It repositioned deeper. Passive tracking resumes aboard the USS Gravely. No active sonar now. The Atlantic is quiet again. Every operator leans into their headset, separating a faint mechanical rhythm from the background sea state. Blade rate confirms. Same hull, same boat. 0607. Contact speed 10 knots. Battery conservation mode. Tactical withdrawal. The submarine is easing away from the carrier strike group without accelerating into an obvious retreat. Measured, professional. 0608. On the bridge of the USS George H.W. Bush, flight operations return to full tempo. An E-2D Hawkeye rotates through its orbit overhead. F/A-18s cycle into launch and recovery windows. From a distance, nothing appears different. Inside CIC, everything is recorded. Every second of the intercept, every speed change, every depth adjustment, every heading correction, 0610. Contact descending. 400 feet. Below the thermocline, acoustic clarity drops further. Tracking confidence narrows from high to moderate. Gravely maintains passive hold. No pursuit vector is ordered. The strike group does not chase. It continues its mission profile. 0612. Range 8 nautical miles. Increasing. The Russian boat is no longer pacing parallel. Its heading diverges 5 degrees starboard. Not dramatic, but definitive. Disengagement geometry confirmed. 0614. Inside CIC, intelligence specialists begin preliminary review. The flank speed cavitation profile is isolated for comparison against existing acoustic libraries. Harmonic bands are cross-referenced against prior Atlantic encounters. This is not theater. This is pattern recognition. The moment the submarine accelerated to 25 knots at shallow depth, it revealed more about itself than it may have intended. Flank signatures are distinctive. Engine strain creates identifiable acoustic fingerprints. Hull vibration patterns differ from boat to boat. Data is gold. 0616. Contact depth 500 feet. The Atlantic begins to absorb it. Confidence rating drops again. The Seahawk crew, now secured aboard Gravely, downloads electro-optical footage. The brief periscope breach is captured in high resolution. Mast silhouette, surface distortion, angle relative to the carrier's bow. Timestamp archived. Operational record, strategic record 0618. Range 10 nautical miles. Speed steady at 9 knots. The Russian submarine has shifted from maneuver to transit. It is leaving the strike group's immediate envelope. No radio traffic was exchanged. No bridge-to-bridge call was made. No diplomatic message was transmitted. Everything that needed to be said was said through speed, distance, and restraint. 0620. Contact depth 600 feet. Faint passive arrays stretch to maintain hold. Gravely's commanding officer reviews the tactical replay in near real time. The intercept window is examined frame by frame. 14 minutes from the first high-speed acceleration to the final breakaway. There was a moment at less than 1 nautical mile CPA when the line was thinner than most civilians will ever understand. No launch signature, no emergency helm order, just steel under pressure. 0623. Range 12 nautical miles. Contact fading beyond high confidence classification. Last reliable bearing 105. No one orders reacquisition beyond mission parameters. The strike group continues on assigned heading. 0625. Contact lost. The sonar display clears. Background ocean noise fills the spectrum. Shipping lanes remain open. Air wing tempo returns to normal rhythm. Radar screens show only routine traffic, but the record remains. A Russian submarine worth tens of millions of dollars made a high-speed approach inside a critical range of a United States aircraft carrier. It came within less than 1 nautical mile, and then it disengaged. 0628. Inside CIC, posture eases from heightened readiness to standard watch rotation. Not relaxed, not celebratory, professional. Because what happened was not random. It was a test. The Russian commander measured reaction time, formation geometry, response thresholds, and control under pressure. And the United States Navy measured him back. Every acoustic spike, every power strain, every course correction, every hesitation before the turnaway. 0630. The Atlantic looks unchanged. From satellite altitude, the strike group is only a formation of gray hulls moving across blue water. No smoke, no debris, no headlines. But beneath that surface, one of the quietest forms of naval confrontation had just played out. No missiles in the air, no underwater exchange, no loss of control, only discipline, and the line held. 0635 local time. The Atlantic is calm again. Flight operations aboard the USS George H.W. Bush move at full tempo. F/A-18 launch in sequence. Arresting cables snap tight and recoil. Deck crews signal with sharp, precise motions. From the outside, nothing suggests that less than an hour earlier, a Russian submarine had sprinted directly into high-risk range. Inside the Combat Information Center, the replay runs silently. High-speed acceleration, depth climb, intercept geometry. Breakaway at 0.9 nautical miles. Every second preserved. 0640. Aboard the USS Gravely, acoustic specialists isolate the most valuable data segment. The submarine's cavitation signature at 25 knots. High-speed acoustic fingerprints are rare. Most submarines avoid exposing them. That brief sprint delivered a clean profile. Blade harmonics catalog. Power strain patterns identified. Hull resonance captured. The next time that signature appears anywhere in the Atlantic, it will not be a mystery. 0645. There was no collision, no warning flare, no emergency turn. The carrier never exceeded minor course corrections. The destroyer never escalated. The Seahawk never released weapons. Restraint is not hesitation. It is discipline under pressure. The Russian commander approached inside a range where the timeline could have changed in minutes. He held speed. He held heading. He climbed to periscope depth. And then he turned away. 0650. On the Bush's bridge, the captain reviews the final tactical log. No commentary, no emotion, just confirmation. Strike group maintained formation integrity. That is the outcome. In naval operations, posture often matters more than noise. A ship that panics changes geometry too quickly. A ship that overreacts raises the stakes. The strike group did neither. 0700. Intelligence traffic moves quietly through encrypted channels. Acoustic data is transmitted to fleet analysis centers. Patterns are compared against previous North Atlantic encounters. This is the unseen side of maritime confrontation. The exchange is not only about who acted first, it is about who learned more. 07050. The Russian submarine never crossed the final threshold. It entered a high-risk envelope. It adjusted its approach. It tested reaction timing. Then it disengaged. Why? Because the geometry did not favor escalation. Because the carrier did not yield. Because Gravely's active sonar made invisibility impossible. And because once a submarine sprints at flank speed toward a U.S. carrier, the word accident becomes very difficult to use. 0710. The Atlantic absorbs everything. Calm above, quiet below. But the message remains. A submarine worth tens of millions of dollars accelerated directly toward one of the most protected naval assets in the world. And the carrier never flinched. 0715. Professional navies understand unspoken lines. 1 nautical mile is not just a number. It is close. It is deliberate. It is the kind of distance where decisions are measured in seconds. For 13 minutes, both commanders balanced risk. Neither moved too early. Only one chose to turn away. 0720. No press conference follows, no public warning, no diplomatic escalation, just a line in an operational log. Russian submarine executed high-speed approach, disengaged before crossing final threshold. That is how modern naval standoffs often end. Quietly. 0725. The strike group continues. Mission profile unchanged. Radar sweeps outward. Sonar arrays listen. Aircraft cycle overhead. Routine resumes. But the next time a similar acoustic trace appears on a sonar waterfall, it will not be anonymous. It will be recognized, cataloged, anticipated. Because control at sea is not always about force, it is about composure. The Russian submarine tested proximity. The United States Navy demonstrated stability. No dramatic exchange, no visible damage, no headline moment, just steel, distance, and decisions measured in fractions of miles. Out here, escalation does not begin with noise, it begins with geometry. And on this morning in the North Atlantic, geometry held.